time. I don't know where to go, but I want you to be mine. Cause I'm falling in love and it feels like the first time. Feels like the first time.
There he is. Look at that. How beautiful. St. Augustinus, Florida was founded on this site by Pedro Menendez Alvarez. With him were 500 soldiers and 200 sailors and 100 colonists. You are standing in the first settlement of our nation's oldest city. It's cool. I like the flags around it. Alright, well, we've made it to the Fountain of Youth area. Oh, there's another peacock. Oh, look at both of them, babe.
Oh, pretty. Got a broken quill.
All I can think of is bend over, let me see you shake them tail feathers. That's a good song. America's first colony.
Well, let's drink some fancy water.
Alright, well, we made it. The first thing you come to is the actual Fountain of Youth. Fountain of Youth Spring House this way. Oh, I can hear it. Probably can't hear it on camera, but I can hear it now.
Oh.
Whoa. Okay. Cool. Commissioned in 1928 by Walter B. Frazier, who purchased the Fountain of Youth Park from Lula de McConnell in 1927. This painting is one of the few known works done by Heaton during his lifetime. Oh, we found it, huh? This is the Fountain of Youth. This spring was discovered in 1513 and was recorded a landmark and a Spanish grant. Alright, Lorelai, you ready?
Yeah.
Get some? That's it?
Oh, yeah, look at it. Ooh, you're a mojo. Oh, you're never supposed to smell?
Nope. Should hold your nose.
Chin chin. Oh, that's fine.
Not bad?
Don't forget, y'all can sign our guest book. We have been collecting guest signatures now for over 100 minutes.
That's not so free. Like everybody says. I'm gonna go get my cup out of the car.
Alright, so we have the cross of 1513 here, said to have been laid by Juan Castellon in 1513. We found it in 1909 with the silver salt cellar, and inside that was the vellum parchment. The vellum parchment is a testimonial from one of Juan Castellon's sailors, stating that he made his mark and he drank from the waters and they were sweet to the taste. That is going to be lost in translation. These waters are not sweet in any kind of way. It just meant that they're not salt water. It meant fresh water. So by 1875, that spring was drying up. We put the well in its place. Only went down about 50 feet at that time. We could bring the water up with a bucket. Today it has to go down over 240 feet. We have to go get the water and pump it back up. But again, same water source Juan Ponce de Leon and his men would have been drinking from and supplying their ships with. We use it to commemorate that he landed in this area on April 3rd, 1513. He claimed us for Spain and he gave us the name La Florida, the flower. Now please keep in mind, Christopher Columbus never stepped foot on the continent of the United States. Juan Ponce de Leon is the first European to formally claim what is today the continental United States and Canada.
Y'all want to catch this stuff?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You have to hurry up, guys.
Okay, well, there's a planetarium show here, so we're gonna go in there and check this out. Probably won't be able to film because it's kind of dark, but we'll tell you about it. All right, so that was a planetarium. Pretty standard for a planetarium show, but it did show the stars the night that on April 2nd. Well, they arrived April 2nd and then anchored offshore and then arrived here on April 3rd. So that was kind of neat to see that. It says, welcome to the village of Meloy. Did I say it right, you think? Meloy. The straw huts. Neat. And still peacocks everywhere saying hello.
Ever since coming down here to Florida and hanging out in St. Augustine, that's what I do now. I never was a history buff, but I just found so much incredible history I was not told, and then as I've taught myself how to research, what I'm here for. Questions.
And your name is?
My name is Victor.
Awesome. Nice to meet you,
Hey,
Victor.
nice to meet you.
This is my wife,
Hi.
Lorelai.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. Nice
Hi.
to meet you.
You have a question?
Yes. Can you tell me what these markings are?
Yes, this is these particular markings come from, I understand, Cherokee culture. We've got a colleague here that's half Cherokee, introduces this, but it's a very common spiritual theme. There's a line going through 7 squares. Each square, 4 of the squares represent the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, west, and then one of the squares represents Father Earth. Another one represents Father Sky, and then another one represents Mother Earth, and then people and how they're all connected.
That's awesome.
To give you an idea of the common ideology of that, the Inca believed in Father Sky, Viracocha, Mother Earth, Pachamama, and the giver of life, the sun god Inti. So it's kind of similar, the representations, which also, interestingly, is why the Spaniards had an easy time, believe it or not, contrary to what we're taught, in presenting and converting the natives to the New World to Christianity, because that theme is very common. It's the foundation to most Christianity, the Holy Trinity and so forth. And this is why you have throughout Latin America, especially the Spanish territories, so many incarnations of the Virgin Mary, because they had deities or divinities that were similar. So it turns out the kings of Spain did not order, go and convert them. The order was presented, and they will come to you naturally. And the proof is in the pudding. If someone forces something on you, and you have no choice but to accept it, what happens when they're gone? And you know they're not coming back. You don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
But why would you continue pursuing it? And through Latin America, whatever sect of Christianity they're following, they're extremely devout. Extremely. More so than back in Italy and rest of Europe. That's why the Vatican has shifted its focus to South America, and why they selected the Pope they had. Politically, it solved the problem that the Italians wanted an Italian Pope, but the Pope was born in Argentina. He's Latin American. Perfectly solved the problem. So again, that busts a myth, right?
That's awesome.
That busts a myth.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, we just talked to Victor for what seemed like hours. He was so full of energy and enthusiasm and history. He was amazing.
He's involved in the history. He takes his own time to read and research and understands linguistics and is breaking down and finding truths, and that's pretty awesome.
One of my favorite things he said was, when you come to something like this, a history thing, don't judge what they actually went through by what you're actually seeing, because there's so many interpretations. Just know that it may not be the exact way that you're seeing it presented to you, and do your own research and think about other things, like straw huts that you usually see with the point up. He said they wouldn't make, teepee style. They wouldn't make them that way. They were rounded because they knew hurricanes were going to come, and that's why they have such a small opening in their door. So when the winds did come, they put a bearskin, he said?
It could be similar to a bearskin, and they would tie it to the structure.
Yeah.
So not so much wind would come through and take off their roof.
Yeah. That's awesome. I I wish I could have recorded that whole thing, but it would have been like hours and hours of video. And
The huts
But-
were aerodynamic.
yes. Oh, this is.
And these posts,
Oh yeah.
were put in wherever they found the darker, redder soil. They could tell that the structure had been burned down. The wood had burnt down and changed the soil, so they knew exactly where these structures were, how they were shaped, and this is the later English and Spanish influence.
With the
Square
rectangular
rectangular
roofs,
shapes,
yep.
teepee style roofs.
Yep.
So you can see that it was both the European and Spanish influence as well as the Indian Aboriginal influence that was already They were intermingling their cultures. This was the village of Meloy.
Meloy, this whole area. He said the waterfront went all the way back to where we were over there. And then the water succeeded a little bit, but this
And
whole
they
area-
were allowed to live here and stay here. They weren't given protection from the Indians, but they weren't disturbed by the Indians either. So they had this shared community, but were still separate.
He said even back then they knew the dangers of fire to different houses, so they would be 60 feet apart or so, you know, depending on the house that they had. So it was awesome. Oh, let's go to the. We'll go to the blacksmith.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
I drove up business.
Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to the blacksmith shop. I'm Greg the blacksmith, and I'm going to tell you folks about blacksmithing back in the time of Pedro Menendez, the founder of our city of St. Augustine. Well, let's start at the beginning. Why is a blacksmith a blacksmith? Do you know? Blacksmiths are blacksmiths because of the metal that we work with. Blacksmiths are iron workers. We work with iron and steel. Back in the olden days, iron and steel were collectively known as the black metal because of the black oxidation that forms on them. So the black in blacksmith simply tells you the kind of metal that we work with, no different than the gold in goldsmith or the silver in silversmith, except those guys make more money. Comes from the Old English word smite, which means to strike or hit, like so. Over the years, all that smiting gets turned into smithing to describe metal workers who are hammering their raw materials to make things. So smiths are all metal workers. The only way they had to cook back in those days was over fire, but thanks to us blacksmiths, looky here. 456 years ago, they had low, medium, and high on their stoves. This little gadget is called a cooking trammel, and folks, that is the knob on your stove. You ever do any cooking? I'm famous for my biscuits. Oh, yes, sir. Look at here, guys. The trammel gives you a way to hang your pot over your fire, and a quick, easy means of adjusting your heat from low to medium to high right there at your fingertips. Now, I'm proud of this particular trammel because if you look closely, right here at the top, you'll see my maker's mark, which is a crescent moon, and then down, lower down, you'll see an L maker's mark. That's for Lisa, my apprentice, first girl apprentice I've had in 23 years of blacksmithing, and she's doing better. Don't worry about that, guys. It's a terrible shot. She's doing better than a lot of the guys that I've trained. Feeding it large quantities of additional oxygen will boost the temperature of my wood charcoal forge fire all the way up to 2,500 degrees. Hot enough to melt steel. But I don't want to melt it. I just want to get it hot to make it soft so that it's easy for me to shape. But how soft does it get? Well, let's see. Let's see. Guys, it gets about this soft right here.
Oh, wow.
Right now, that 1/4-inch steel rod is so soft I can literally wave at you guys. And it's not going to break because right now that metal is malleable. I can stretch it, twist it, cut it, punch holes in it, do anything I want to do to make whatever I need to make. And Modern nails are round and smooth because they're made by machines in factories. Their nails were square because they were hammered out by hand with hammers, and square was simply the most efficient way to get the job done. By keeping it square, I've only got to hit that metal on 2 sides. First things first, I have to get that metal hot. But how do I know when it's hot enough? That's easy, I just look at it. That's right, you won't hear blacksmiths talking in terms of temperature. We don't use thermometers. We judge the heat of the metal by observing the color of the metal itself. The first color that it turns is red. When it gets hotter than red, it turns orange. When it gets hotter than orange, it turns yellow. And finally, the hottest of all is white hot. We never bring the metal up to white hot. That melts it and ruins it. Perfection. We'll leave up just enough material here to form the head of the nail with. Clamp it down, break it off right where I notched it. Take my hammer, hit the nail on the head. Just like that, we got a head on a nail. That's it. You have no way by looking at that piece of steel that it's hot. You could very easily grab that by accident, and if you did, you would discover that, yeah, it's hot enough to take the skin right off of you. That's about 800 degrees right there, guys. So that's called black hot, the heat that you can't see. And that's for warning whatsoever. So it doesn't have to look hot to be hot. So we have to be careful in here and pay attention.
How do they make the coals? The charcoal?
How do they make the charcoal?
Yes.
Out of wood. You dry it and season it. You dig a pit. You build a bonfire in there. You get it started lit and started burning. Then you cover it with wet straw and dirt, so that it's basically covered up with like an earthen oven, so that it's slow cooking. It's smoldering inside there. Air can't get to it, so it can't flame up, burn down to ash. So all you're doing is cooking out everything that doesn't burn, and what you're left with is an impure form of carbon, which is why the Spanish name for it is carbon.
So he's getting everything ready for a cannon firing demonstration. It's gotta be cool. Alright, so while we were waiting for the cannon demonstration, I noticed this guy is doing a musket presentation, so I'm gonna go over and check this out. A rifle's gonna cost about $5,000 to make. This arquebus will be about $100 to make. Reload time is gonna take about 5 minutes to reload a rifle. It's gonna take about 45 seconds to load this gun. They do have one thing in common. They're all muzzle loaders. Everything is going down the front, starting with our priming charge. For our primer, we're using a very fine grain powder. It's going to burn very hot, very fast. Pour it into the bowl of the pan. Shut your pan, cast your gun about. Take your charger. This carries enough powder to fire one shot and one shot only. Open and pour down the muzzle of your gun. Take your shot. A solid shot or a linen bag of BBs turning into a shotgun. And your wadding. Wadding in Europe would have been felt plugs dipped in oil. We're not using that as much in the new colonies. We're using plugs of moss instead. Grab some from the trees, ball it up, put it right on top of the shot. Take your scouring stick, reverse it, and run everything down. Make sure it's nice and seated. Return your scouring stick. Cast your gun about. Take your match, blow on. Make sure it's nice and hot. Put it into the jaws of the serpentine. I'm going to give 2 commands. I'll pull to the point, wiggle for fire. Cover your ears. This will be loud. I would strongly recommend it. I'll pull turn. Wiggle. Okay, all I gotta say is, yeah, that was loud. Holding a camera, I can only plug one ear. So this ear got a little bit of ringing, but it didn't last long, maybe a second or two, but that was really neat. I bet you that cannon though is gonna be a lot louder. Let's go find out.
Drawstring is set. Take your bolt, slide her on in there. She's good to go. Now, the one thing the weapon does not have, it doesn't have a sighting system to it. No front, no rear sight aperture. Personally, for me, I found the best way to aim this is I use the tip of the bolt as a sight and pray I don't hit another kayaker in the bay. Nice and quiet, right?
The cannons you see here on the pedestal are called long nines. They are very powerful cannons. These were the type of cannons that were around during the time that Pedro Menendez arrived here. Okay, however, when Pedro Menendez arrived, he brought 20 smaller cannons, just like the ones on the platforms. Those cannons are known as bombardettas, and they were already obsolete when he brought them here. Those cannons were about 100 to about 125 years old when he first brought them here. Each cannon had a crew of 5 men working on it, and they would work in rotation. One of the men would load the server, put it in, another man will roll the cannonball down, a third man would fire it. The other 2 men will start refilling the other servers to bring them up so you can fire the cannon. So they worked in rotation. So they were capable of firing 3 cannonballs per minute as opposed to 1 cannonball per minute and a half. Okay? Granted, a mile and a half distance, half a mile. The Spaniards would just watch and see the enemy coming. When they got within a half a mile, the 20 bombardettas would let go. Okay? 20 bombardettas, 3 cannonballs per minute. How many cannonballs is that? 60, flying downrange at 400 miles an hour, tearing the sides of those wooden boats like a hot knife through butter, causing inside that boat something known as spalling, which is hundreds and thousands of jagged edge splinters flying at high velocity in every direction, cutting your body to shreds. Hearing, I suggest you cover your ears. Listo!
Hey!
Por España!
¡Por España!
Fuego! That was only 2 ounces of gunpowder. A little bottle like this. 2 ounces. So you can imagine what 2.5 pounds would have sounded like. And yeah, you can guess, if you say that the cannoneers were hard of hearing, you were right. They had hearing damage. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you. That was fantastic.
Yes.
I really love this job.
So here we found the statue of Ponce de Leon himself. It says he was born in Spain in 1460. The governor of San Juan, which is now Puerto Rico, from 1509 to 1511. And of course, the founder of the Fountain Youth. So at first we thought this was an old barn, and then we looked and it says it's the original mission church. You see the cross there? Let's see what it's like inside. Oh wow. Oh look. Baby, where they'd have the holy water. Is that confession or is that just
Could just be his quarters.
could be. Or he gets ready and prays right before he comes out to lead. Wow. Oh wow.
Oh, they do have the knee pad.
Yep. So what'd you say would go upstairs, baby?
That's where the mamas take the crying babies.
Can you imagine how beautiful this place was with those candelabras lit?
Hot.
Probably. It's not hot in here now, but it's hot outside, so
Yeah, but you put bodies in here and candles.
yeah, you're right. Alright, that was our time at the Fountain Youth. It says exit through the gift shop, of course. You ready?
Yes.
Alright, let's go. There's the gift shop up there. And there's a feeding station where you can feed. Supposed to be feeding the peacocks, but these pigeons are everywhere. That's why those peacocks are yelling. They're so mad at the pigeons.
That's not from the fountain because it's not orange.
Oh, that's true. Look, there's different ones. Tough guy.
Yeah, so your names.
No fear, I love
Just
you.
regular ones up here.
Oh, there's names. Of course, peacock stuff. Think that's water
Well, it says that it is.
from the fountain. It says employees on bottles filled. convenience moment.
It's not orange though.
You should get some. Say you got Fountain Youth. I don't know if you ever open it. So right outside the Fountain of Youth, we found smoked Southern barbecue.
We smelled it.
We smelled it, and it smells so good. So we're gonna take some. All right, Lola, what'd you get?
I got the barbecue platter. I got the brisket, coleslaw, baked beans, and pickled onions that are so sweet and yummy.
Oh, you already had some?
I had one.
Oh, cool. I just got the pulled pork, French fries, and a mustard-based barbecue sauce. Smells good though.
Smells amazing.
And since it's Mother's Day, Lorelai got her ice cream swirl.
I don't have to share because the kids aren't here.
That too. Alright guys, that was our trip through the Fountain of Youth. What'd you think?
It's hot.
It was a little hot, a little warm. Especially waiting for that cannon fire.
In direct sunlight.
In direct sunlight.
There was a lot of shade, and there were a lot of interior exhibits. So, and there's a cool breeze going, so it was nice. But there was a lot more here than we remember. But more than there was 25 years ago. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Very educational, and the workers here have the knowledge, and they are so excited to share it.
The passion came out, in a lot,
Absolutely.
especially in Victor. Like I said earlier, we could have filmed Victor and done just a classroom session, 9-week semester with just Victor. The way he was so passionate about his learnings, what he found on his own, compared to what others had found in their learnings.
It was definitely worth the, what was it, $20?
$20
I think it was $19 per adult. And we spent 2.5 hours here, and we saw everything. But we came at the very opening, and there were maybe 7 to 10 families here.
Yeah, so definitely come when they first open.
Peacocks are everywhere, and they let you know it.
Yep, I think they're saying goodbye to us.
Aww.
So with that, we'll say goodbye from Fountain of Youth.
Bye, guys.
Talked until the midnight with a moon by the riverside. Music like a romance, kissing while we slow it down. We discovered something real. Wow, we never saw it coming, but it's real. What we feel, you got me mesmerized, but I don't need any cure. Our love is so pure, for all we have is here and now, if ever will allow. It's a real, real love. Stay with me tonight. It's a real, real love. I make you feel alright. It's a real, real love. Summer nights in